What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Keelan, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my review for Wendell Wild. It's a new stop-motion film released on Netflix. It's also directed and written by Henry Selick, who, if you guys don't know, also did Coraline, The Nightmare Before Christmas, and he did James and the Giant Peach, which are all great movies. If you guys haven't seen them, I highly recommend going and checking them out. And not only that, though, but it was also co-written by Jordan Peele, who is also a producer on that movie. If you guys don't know who that is, he did Us, Get Out, most recently Nope, and he also voices the character of, I believe, Wendell or Wild. Voice of Wild. He voices Wild. The synopsis for this film reads as follows. Two scheming demon brothers, Wendell and Wild, enlist the aid of a 13-year-old girl, Kat Elliott, to summon them to the land of the living. Now, this film's runtime is 1 hour and 40 minutes, so that little synopsis barely scratches the surface on this film. There's so many different storylines that both benefit and negatively impact the movie overall. But before I get into my review, I just want to ask you guys, if you're not already, please make sure you subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoy my review. The like is the most important thing when it comes to the YouTube algorithm, so it helps me out a lot, and it doesn't cost you guys a thing. Just hit the button. Yeah. Spread the love, hit the like button. Yeah, Wendell Wild. This one's been on my radar for a few months now. Ever since I heard about it, I heard Henry Selick was working on it. It was Jordan Peele was working on it. These are names that I'm familiar with, that, you know, I like their work. So, like I said, on my radar, I was waiting for it to come out. And then it took me like I had to watch it in 3 parts, basically, because I kept falling asleep. It's not that the movie's bad. It just couldn't keep my attention all the way through. So I watched it in 3 sections. And while there are a lot of great things about the movie, overall, I don't really think that this one was for me. It wasn't really what I was expecting. It wasn't what I was hoping for. So first and foremost, let me just get to the things that I did like about it, and then we'll talk about the things that I disliked about it. So obviously the stop animation, incredibly impressive. I know that it takes massive amount of time and dedication for them to get through these the filming of these types of movies. I know it takes a ton of time just for them to shoot simple, like, you know, short scenes. So I know there's so much dedication and effort involved in the making of stop motion animation films. So props to them. It looks amazing. It translated very well. The whole movie looks incredible. The designs for the characters are really interesting and fun. So that aspect, I loved it. The scoring was also really well put together. It kept it interesting, made the movie flow well with the animation. It just draws you in further, lets you get into that world, sucks you into the atmosphere. So the music, soundtrack, also a lot of fun. I enjoyed the characters of Wendell and Wild, voiced by Jordan Peele, and I don't know the guy's first name, but Key from Key and Peele. If you guys watch any of their comedy stuff, you guys know who I'm talking about. I like their dynamic. Some of the stuff that they had was pretty funny. Obviously, you know, they do comedy stuff, so their writing, I imagine Jordan Peele probably wrote a good bit of the comedy in this movie, and I like their interactions. I like their characters. I thought it was fun. They touch on this real life concept, this thing that happens to people all the time, where, you know, people in these low income areas are practically set up for failure. They aren't given the same opportunities that other people around the world are given, and they are basically set up to fail, set up to get caught up in jail or get sent to prison and stuff, set up in those type of lifestyles, and they're just funneled into these private institutions. And so in turn, the private institutions end up just making money off of them. And they talk about that in this movie. It's not it's not something that is really talked about too often. So I appreciated them tackling that conversation. You know, and there's also just the corruption, racism, all that sort of stuff. Like I said, that's Jordan Peele's bread and butter. He always touches on those sort of concepts. And so they touch on these topics and these conversations and bring light to them. And that's something, you know, if they can do it in a way that doesn't kill the movie, it doesn't like smash it down your throat, they handle it in a delicate way, brings light to it, but also also still creating a film that you can enjoy and you don't feel like you're being necessarily preached to, or you know what I mean, like a comfortable blend. That's the perfect recipe for me. So, and I think that they accomplished that with this movie. But aside from those 3 points, there's just not a whole lot to this film that met my expectations. A lot of cool ideas, a lot of cool storylines that I felt we just got no answers to. A lot of plot details that just didn't really fully make sense. I didn't really understand why Wendell and Wild wanted to go to the human world. I guess it was to make their, you know, build their fair, but I don't know, just didn't, there's just a lot of plot points that just didn't get wrapped up. And also, I feel like when it comes to the main character, Kat, they try to give her this strong woman characterization, which is all good and fine, but I just feel like in a lot of movies, when they try to have that representation, they end up just not they end up always following this archetype where you end up not really liking the character. It's hard to explain, but I don't know. I feel like there's a better way to represent those type of archetypes, but they always end up characterizing them in a way that just stands out in a kind of an annoying way. You don't really enjoy the character. And there were some cool messages about her getting over her past and triumphing over her traumas and all that kind of stuff, and that's cool. But I don't know, there was just, I think where they were aiming one way, barely missed the target. If they would have just switched around a couple of details, it probably would have made the movie more enjoyable. I don't know, I don't think this was the one for me, really. I'll just leave it at that. I don't think this was really the one for me. I liked what I liked about it, but the things that I disliked kind of just kept me from staying attentive, which is why I had to break it up into so many different parts to finish the movie. And then when it was done, I was kind of relieved, because I was just glad to be done with it, which is disappointing. You know, you never want to feel like you're dreading watching a movie. For some, this will be a really enjoyable movie, probably a repeat watch for the Halloween season from now on for a lot of people. I think I'll just stick to the Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline stop animation for my Halloween vibes. I might go back and watch Wendell Wild. You know, it wasn't terrible, and I don't want to deter anybody from watching it. I definitely recommend going and watching it, because I do think that there's a market of people for this movie, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it, and there is a lot to appreciate about it, but it just wasn't the one for me. So I have to be honest, not my cup of tea. And I know that this is a little bit of a different movie from the regular movies that I've been reviewing, but I figured it was time to go a different direction and just do something a little bit different. Stop animation. You don't see a whole lot of those type of movies, and I figured it would be fun to review this one. And I feel like this is probably one that went under a lot of people's radars. So if I'm able to bring more attention to other people, or bring attention to the movie and get other people's eyes to watch it, even if I wasn't the biggest fan of it, I'm happy to do so. Yeah, that's pretty much gonna finish up my review for Wendell and Wild. If I had to rate Wendell and Wild, I would probably give it a 5 out of 10, just because the enjoyment aspect wasn't really there for me. As far as making a good stop animation movie, it's great, but as far as my enjoyment level, just wasn't really there. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, but please don't let that deter you guys from checking it out. But I'm gonna hand it off to you guys. Let me know in the comments down below if you have checked out Wendell and Wild already. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions were. If you liked my review, also let me know. If you haven't already, please follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at KillTheCredits. And if you haven't already, please make sure you drop a like on this video. As I said before, likes are the most important analytic for the YouTube algorithm. They help me out a ton, and it's free. Cost you guys nothing, and I would appreciate it. With all of that out of the way, I'll go ahead and bid you guys a farewell and a goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video.